A few months ago, I first talked about an interesting rumor regarding the hub of Epic Universe. As originally reported on by Orlando Parkstop, Epic Universe could ditch the traditional theme park ticketing model in favor of an open hub. What this means essentially is that anyone could enter the hub of the park, but would need a ticket of sorts to enter each individual land. As time went on, this rumor kind of lost traction, but recently more fuel was added to the fire. In a recent investor call, the CEO of NBC Universal, Jeff Shell, stated the following.
We believe we can get the attendance we need just on the basis of the demand in the market, but it's also going to be interesting to see as the convention business comes back, the park is built so that you can come into one land and not the whole park, and are we going to get nighttime convention business, which is a kind of an interesting experiment for us.
Now, the way this is worded is a little confusing. Since Shell is referring to the convention business, this may just mean they're thinking of renting out individual lands for convention space, rather than a full-on open hub. Think of events like the recent Orlando Informer meetup, which rented out both Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure after regular park hours. If Universal wanted to host events like this without closing the entire park, this may be a good idea. Like, for example, a Harry Potter event which closes down only that land. While this may not be as exciting, it does open up a whole new revenue stream for Universal, so it's entirely possible this is what Shell was referring to. However, let's take a second and read this statement in a more interesting way. Epic Universe could very well have this open hub concept. This is an intriguing idea that I think has both its pros and its cons. The most prominent con, however, is also just a question of how this is going to work. If it's like the current system where you have to swipe your ticket at the entrance, I think this concept may not go well. With how Epic Universe is set up, you'd have to swipe your ticket at the entrance of each individual land, which doesn't seem ideal. This would likely mean having a line outside every land on top of ride lines. It could also lead to huge crowd control problems for the park's hub, especially with anyone being able to enter for free. There are other concepts though. One such concept is face recognition, where guests could simply walk through with their face associated with their ticket. While on the surface this seems to be a better alternative, it also comes with its own set of problems. Without opening a huge can of worms in regards to privacy, I think the primary issue here is with the technology. I'm not sure face recognition is as advanced as it needs to be now in order to determine who can be let through or not. Like, if someone walked through putting their head down in a crowd of people, could they still be let through? It's smaller issues like this that make me hesitate on whether or not Universal would want to implement this concept. A lower success rate, even if by a small percentage, means less money, which matters especially when considering how much more expensive this would be to implement than the traditional system. Maybe by 2025 it'll seem a lot more feasible, but for now, I don't see this happening. However, it turns out, if this open hub concept does come to fruition, I think there would be some positives. Firstly, and most importantly, the hub of the park would be free for all. I think this would be a pro for both Universal and park guests for a variety of reasons. When it comes to Universal, this would be a whole new revenue stream on top of ticket sales. Think of how Universal City Walk invites you to stay and have dinner, or watch a movie, or try out an escape room. With the hub of the park rumored to have plenty of shops and dining locations, it makes sense to keep it open. The big question mark here, though, are the rides in the hub. For reference, there will be a small flat ride and a massive dueling roller coaster in the hub of the park. If Epic Universe were to have this open hub, I'm curious how they'd want to handle those rides. Maybe guests would have to swipe their park ticket at the entrance, like with the individual lands. This would come with the same problem of overcrowding, but this option does make sense. Universal could also make these separate ticketed attractions. Like, instead of paying to go to the whole park, guests could just pay $10 to go on the roller coaster. Honestly, I don't think this is ideal, but it's certainly an option. Especially with the nearby FunSpot Orlando, this could be a good way for Universal to compete. FunSpot is a free-to-enter park where you have to pay for each attraction, and it mostly gets business from people visiting after the larger parks closed. If Universal went with this approach and kept the hub open late, this could be a very good competitor. The last option, and the least likely, is that Universal will make these rides free for all. It could make a bit of sense considering guests will still have to pay for parking, but I don't think I could see this happening. Lines for these two rides would be huge, and I think Universal would want to make some extra money by making them paid attractions. We'll have to wait and see though. The final perk to this system would have to be park hours. Rather than having the whole park close at 8 p.m., Universal could shut down each land at whatever time they see fit, and keep the hub open late into the night. In fact, I could see Super Nintendo World closing earlier in the day, and a land like Universal Monsters staying open until the dark of night. This would also be effective for early park admission, with Universal able to open specific lands for park guests instead of gating off certain areas like they do now. Not to mention, if a land were to hit capacity, Universal could just close it for a bit and let guests through as they please. But in my opinion, I don't see the open hub happening, at least in its current form. The idea of having your ticket checked at the entrance of every land seems incredibly inconvenient, and as I said, would likely make the whole hub congested. That also goes for the rides in the hub, which seem to complicate the whole free-for-all idea. If I had to guess, I think everyone will be required to buy a ticket to enter the park. While an open hub could compete with FunSpot Orlando, I don't see any other major perks for Universal here. It just seems to overcomplicate things, rather than make them more simple. I think having dynamic hours for each land would be a great idea though, and could be incorporated whether or not the hub is free. I'll also mention the possibility that we may see a second City Walk come to this location in the future. If that happens, I think an open hub would be pretty much irrelevant. Overall, while this concept seems good on the surface, I just don't see it happening. Whether I'm right or wrong though, I'm incredibly excited to see what this park has to offer. If you want to hear even more about Epic Universe, check out this video on the recent Universal Monsters rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.